Finding yourself lost in finding ways to be found, getting into your mind, lost in
The weekends, so I get Monday and Tuesday off.
You work on the week. What do you do working on the weekends?
I own a glass art studio. We
Nice.
do fused glass, stained glass, and mosaic with a gift shop as well.
That's really cool. How long have you been doing glass work for?
I started about 5.5 years ago, and specifically in the fused glass. I actually have other teachers that will teach classes in the others, um, but the fused glass is my favorite because it doesn't require as much concise and precise. And I would say I started because of my mom. She had learned about it, and I wanted something else to do with her. Fell in love with it. The studio I was playing with closed. Here I am.
Was there something that you connected with? I mean, because besides the immense amount of heat and the amount of labor that can go into making some of these art pieces, there's a lot of work that goes into it. It's not just a simple head to nail. Like there's a practice, there's a time, there's a temperature, precision, all of that.
Absolutely. But this isn't blown glass. So, unlike blown glass, which is very hot, I get to make things at room temperature without the
Nice.
pressures and stress of the blown glass and without being as dangerous. And I would say I have more flexibility in what I can make than they do, even though I love what the blown glass people can make. That's considered hot glass in my world, and we're considered warm.
Okay.
So the big difference is I make it at a really comfortable temperature and then I put it in a kiln similar to a ceramic kiln. And that heats it up to 1,500 degrees, which fuses the glass together. And I'm at home resting because at 9 o'clock, our rates go down for our electricity. So the kilns are programmed to start after 9 o'clock.
That is hilarious. Do you like live in the middle of the country?
No, I'm on the West Coast. I'm in California, sunny California.
Oh my God. Yeah, I've been hearing some wild things been going on in California, but I can imagine, and especially when it comes to energy, yeah, it's not going to be a cheap bill at the end of the month, especially out
Mm,
there.
yeah, no, it's not. And my studio is in a industrial park. And so we're part of a whole bunch of other um, offices, building, customers type thing, stores. Some of them are just office space. They don't use it for retail. But I'm always worried when we start getting the power outage alerts.
So you said that you work around other businesses. Um, that must be kind of interesting. I mean, because you have an interesting craft. I mean, you create fantastic work. Um,
Well,
what have you learned from the other people that have been around you? Like the other artists, I know you said there's office space, stuff like that, but I'm
yeah,
sure there's probably artists that,
not that many. There's definitely a florist, and I love seeing the artwork that she creates. I mean, that's phenomenal. And I can see that from my where I sit for my desk. I can look out the window and see the bouquets coming and going type thing, and it's just amazing. And then there's two art or painting. One's more geared for kids, and the other one's more geared for adults. And I don't get to see the kids' stuff come out very often, but I've heard wonderful things about the teacher. And the new person who moved in recently, his people come with all their work covered up, and they leave with their work covered up. I don't get to see it. Doesn't
being a
seem
little
fair.
being a little secretive if I might say. It's interesting because when you come into artisan craft, stuff like this, there's a lot of history that goes into. I mean, even though you started 5 years ago, but when you do woodwork or glass work or metalwork, or there's history, going back to Norse, Anglo-Saxons, barbarians, the different tribes. It's just years of history passed
Yes.
down to you.
Yes. And the stained glass world really has so much history that's passed down. So I'm very passionate about my fused glass. So I have people who are passionate about stained glass coming to teach those classes. Because I think that our customers really deserve to have people who are passionate. Today, it's harder and harder to find people who are passionate about most things. So the energy in the studio is really quite high.
Well, for me, I grew up with a father that was an immigrant and a mom that was from Brooklyn. So that'll tell you a lot of things.
Oh, wow.
Little mix of culture. But I grew up in a home where my dad's Moroccan. So in Morocco, they have these tiles, mosaic tiles. And
Yes.
something people don't know, a lot of these mosaic tiles are made from glass. They're not
Yes.
ceramic, they're glass. And I'm probably going to get the terminology wrong. Correct me if I'm right. I think they use a process that's similar to yours, which is with fusing when they make those like little fish or floral pieces in fountains, those circles that they embed in the cement.
I honestly don't know how they make them.
You don't.
No. Hey, I don't have to know everything. That's the fun part
No,
about my
but
job.
I'm actually curious though. How do you, when you're putting together a piece, for example, like what is the process that goes into it? Just to give us a little bit of an idea, because I'm actually curious.
Well, it starts off with a piece of glass. It could be a piece of clear base or it could be a colored base. And then I just happen to have a sample here. My birch trees, which there we go. So I had a piece of clear and I cut out pieces to be birch trees and I made little black a design on them, I guess, is to make them look more like a birch tree. And then I got to decide what season I wanted the birch trees in. And so I decided the fall because I love fall colors. And then I put fall at the bottom, I put fall at the top. And this actually has texture. So this is at a lower temperature to cook. We usually have two basic temperatures, and this one's called a tack, which gives the texture still. And it's under 1400 degrees. Each kiln is a little different, so I don't want to be too specific because somebody will go, well, that's not my kiln. No, my 3 kilns don't cook the same.
Could you use something like that in a living room, like in a corner nook or a window? If you had 4 of those, or you could take 2 and put together. Like, this just reminds me of those beautiful glass pieces. Like when you, I remember I had somebody years ago, they had this stainless glass. It was something very similar to, like, it had texture to it. It was flowers. When the light would shine through it, it's like you got all these colors that were coming through, and it's amazing.
Yes, I love that look. I have some garden stakes outside that have the transparent light. The sun hits them
Beautiful.
And the reflections, and it's like they come alive.
It's amazing how light, the way it communicates with glass.
Yes, it really is. We have a lot of pieces that are a mixture of the transparent and the opalescent. So the opalescent is got the ability to have some reflection through it, but not as much as a transparent where you really get a lot more light going through it. But even the light bouncing off the opalescent colors. I mean, my studio is therapy session in itself. I mean, people come in and they just relax so quickly. And then they start doing their projects. I teach a lot of the classes in the fused glass. And people are so surprised at the end of the session, they're usually 2 to 3 hours, how relaxed they feel. And they're just so surprised because they didn't have like some aha moment in the middle of everything. They were just able to focus on the colors and the energy in the room. And suddenly all of the pressures just sort of melted away for a while, it's like one of the best things I love hearing.
So it's
One of
something
many.
it really has a way of spreading this meditation on you. The first thing that comes to mind is like a church or like a
Yes.
synagogue or a mosque where they have those glass tall and the light shine down on the people that are praying in there. And it has an effect on you.
Yes, absolutely. And everybody wants to come in and create those big type of windows. And my running thing is, everybody has to start somewhere. You don't become a super chef by walking in the kitchen and suddenly being able to create. So I see it's the same thing with glass. And it doesn't have to take a long time. It depends on your own ability to let go of fears and insecurities of not maybe cutting a line as straight as you think it should be. You and I would look at that same piece and never see the problem with it because we see the beauty of the piece, not whether a line was straight or not. And that makes a big difference. And people don't understand that at first. So I always have them take a picture of their piece when they're done. So it's before it's been fired. And then about a week later, they get their piece back. And they're like, oh my God, I had no idea it was going to look so beautiful. I can't believe that I made this. And some people don't believe it's their piece because there's a few pieces of glass that change color in the heat. And I always try to give them a heads up and a warning. I have samples out and they forget. And so it's so fun to watch their faces. I said, well, pull out your picture that you had. Let's compare. And they realize it was one of the pieces and suddenly they're reminded of it. And they're so excited because they really did pick that piece because of the changing color. But within a week, they'd forgotten and they were looking at the picture before it was fired. And it doesn't look the same.
It's funny because we
have a lot of laughs in the studio.
Yeah, I mean, even with like in the perfections, there are imperfections,
Yes.
and you just like, God, we got to do this again. All right, here we go.
And there isn't a lot of that.
No, and it's kind of strange because you never really think to, that's the thing though, because we were saying this earlier, there was a time where if you sat and you just looked around, there's no cell phones and there's no computers.
Right.
So, you could gaze on things like, the whistling of like the chimes on a door or, the glass or the spindles in a garden. But then you don't realize the intricate detail to these things you're looking at. The people that made the pipes for the chimes, the people that made the glass, the people that made the little windmills. So there's that aspect and that essence to it as well, which is, again, you don't really think about too often anymore. I feel.
I agree with you. And even with our glass, there aren't a lot of places in our area where you can go buy something that's handmade or have a custom-made piece. That you can really just have that special gift for someone that wasn't mass manufactured and have it be personalized. And people are surprised it's expensive. And I'm not saying real expensive, but, they think about what it would cost if they just went and bought a coaster at the store versus a coaster that was made with the colors they wanted by hand and had a story to tell as well. And so it's an interesting dynamic when we try to price our products to sell them. But I always tell people you have to think about it more as the experience and what you get out of it. And then giving the gift and seeing their faces is really worth more than any dollar figure.
It's true. And, I know that there is inflation and things are costly and expensive, but it's nice. Like I'm down here in South Florida And it's nice when you can go somewhere and get something like I have I have these ceramic tiles as my coasters. I got a pack of these from this artist that he was out in West Palm. He makes them with his wife,
Oh,
retired, really sweet guy. And I got 4. I mean, they were like $45, but they're great. I always have them around and they're fun. But there's so much more to that as well. It's like not even about just supporting your local artists. It's just have a good weekend. Just go out with your girlfriend. Just go out with your friends or boyfriend or whatever, and explore the town. Figure out what's going on. Check out new things. Like you can have a vacation in your hometown every weekend.
yeah, absolutely. And those coasters, you have a story that goes with them. If you bought those same or you bought 4 coasters, they wouldn't be the same, obviously. But if you bought 4 coasters at a store, you wouldn't even think twice about talking about them with your friends, where you got them, you know, the story behind it, people that you met. And that stays with you. It doesn't, go away just after you walk away from there. And that is huge to me. I just love that.
We need to focus more on experience because not trying to get political in any regard. We see what has happened to mainstream journalism. We've seen what has happened to large corporations. And even more so, we see what has happened to our own communities, specifically here in the United States. Yes, there's a vast difference between East and West Coast. But reality is, we realize more than anything that we're dying for experience. We're dying for something that makes our hometown special. We're dying for something that we could take our kids or ourselves and have fun when we have the time to do so.
Absolutely. And I mean, I'm excited because I had a corporate career for over 30 years.
Oh, wow.
And
Sorry.
I took a major leap of faith. Some little backstory. I mean, I took a major leap of faith and decided instead of fully retiring, I would play with glass more. And the studio that I was playing in decided to close that location. And all of a sudden, it's like, what am I going to do? I don't want to drive a long way, and I want to share it, and I want friends. I don't want to do it in the garage. I want to be with friends and the camaraderie that comes along. And so I opened a studio. 5 weeks later, the country I should say California shut down completely with COVID. And
Our move.
you question your leap of faith, you question your judgment. And I just knew all through it that I did the right thing. I absolutely had no doubts that this was the thing I had to be doing. And the community now that comes into the studio is phenomenal. So we have people come in just for classes here and there, and then we have some that come in more frequently. And then I have an open studio membership. And that community, they didn't know each other. And everybody gets excited. I consider myself the West Coast of Cheers, the TV show Cheers,
I
because
know
everybody
Cheers.
knows your name. Everybody's
Coach.
glad you came.
I love
And
Coach.
yes. I
Who
do too.
doesn't love Coach?
So it's just kind of fun, and it's just an atmosphere that with, like you said, all the stuff that's going on in the world, for a little while, we can all escape it. We share recipes, we bring in something new that we tried baking or cooking and share it, and stories and pictures of grandkids. And it's almost like a TV show, because it's almost like it can't be this real. It can't be this good, because it's more than amazing to me. I could never have imagined it turning into this in just 3.5 years.
It goes to show you what happens in 3.5 years. I mean, we look at time sometimes through like, oh, what happened 20 years ago, or what happened. But we never stop and think, what happened in a year? What happened in 2 years? To understand that 2020 was 3 years ago is a lot to take in.
And a lot has happened.
A
sometimes
lot.
time passes and you don't know what was going on, but there
Right.
was so much going on. And most of it was not pleasant and not happy. And there's a lot more ugliness out there than there's ever been. And it's very hard for me to see it. My daughter's older. Thank goodness, and see the difference, which is great. Because that's what scares me is these kids who don't know how to manage all of the stress and everything that they're getting from so many different directions. And what's true anymore? What's real anymore?
Yeah. I mean, because it's funny. I'm in my mid-20s, and I kind of grew up in the cusp, right before. So we didn't really have smartphones. I mean, we had cell phones. My dad was cool because he had a Palm. Dad had a Palm
Yes.
Pilot. Okay. So it was a different time. I mean, we grew up believing, we believed the bullshit. When you had the kid in school that'll tell you, like, oh, you ever heard about this? And you just believe that. But now you could just pull out your phone and be like, is so and so, like, instantaneously. So there's no, I won't say there isn't any more mystery or excitement. What I would say is there's a new development of way they're interacting. And believe it or not, I feel it has to do a lot with art.
I agree with you. It really does. Art really gives you the opportunity to express yourself and to let emotions come out through your work. So I look around the studio and I kind of chuckle. I laugh a lot anyways, but I chuckle at some of my work because I go, oh my gosh, my mind must have been really scattered that day because it's just a whole bunch of different colors and I've created these different shapes and designs. And it still came out really cool, but it's very different than a much more structured like my aspen trees. So you can see your own personality and how it changes over time.
Your taste, yeah. It's asking yourself the question, what would you do if you had dinner with yourself, but yourself 25 or 35 years younger? You'd be talking to a completely different, it's you, but it's a
Yep.
completely different person.
Yep. Well, my mindset was very different. Um, I took computer programming in college and I had to use punch cards for the mainframe. Um, so it was a massive amount of difference.
No floppy drive.
Oh, that was later.
Oh, wow.
Yes. There weren't laptops and desktops at that point. Um, and yeah, I've seen so much. And one of my parents is still alive, but I lost my dad recently. But I would
I'm
talk to them
sorry.
about
Same.
how many things have changed in their lifetime. Do they, ever stop and kind of look back with all the different things? And the one thing my dad always talked about was how much his art really, and his art's not just drawing and painting, but the music was a huge thing for him. And the art and the beauty of what those instruments could perform and do with the right musician.
Yeah, just the perfect orchestra. That's what I love
Yeah.
about. That's what I love about a live jazz concert, because
Yes.
you get to see these. I've had some people on that have talked about jazz, and it's the number one thing these say is, like, if you want to experience jazz, go see it live.
Yes.
There is a beauty to the craft when you're, like, they're working with the glass, or they're holding the instrument, or they're carving the wood. There's a physical element to it that you don't get off of a digital screen or a computer.
Right. And I find that I always admired, I love to go to symphonies. It was a big thing in our family. We went to a lot of symphonies and ballets and different concerts and musicals. And I always loved the relationship between whether it was an orchestra, whether it was somebody dancing. I was mesmerized. And if I watched somebody working with wood, I mean, just the skill that it took and craft. And there are people in my studio who are more advanced than I am, and that's okay. But I love watching their creativity and just watching them not say much, but all of a sudden, add what looks like just a whole bunch of vegetables, all of a sudden is becoming a stew. And it's like, so I've teased a couple of them that they're chefs of glass.
Chefs of glass. I love that.
Because they can really take it and turn it into these incredible works of art. And you just sit there and stare at it. It's just, we're not a museum. But I do have a little art exhibit now for some of these people. They get a whole month and they get to be on exhibit. So today we had the artist reception for one of those artists. And just watching people come in and meet the person and look at the art and look at what other artists have done, it's just such a joy. It's hard to explain it.
You're able to, it's not self-fulfillment, but it's a collaboration of self-worth to the point of, it's not that you're helping this artist. They now have a place and a way to express and communicate with others, which kind of, as much as we don't like teachers, we have to admit we really need them. We do. We really do need teachers badly.
Yes. And mentors are so important. And I think that, there used to be a lot more people who functioned as mentors for others. And that isn't as common at least in this area anymore. But the community that I have there is so rewarding. And my studio actually was just recognized by our city of Westlake Village, California, as being the business for the fourth quarter of 2023. And I was like,
damn.
Oh my God, does that mean I finally made it? So it's always one of those things like, I feel terrific. I didn't need an award to feel terrific, but it's like somebody else noticed I'm doing a great job. And that feels really good.
It does. Having that recognition. It's somebody saying thank you for what you've been doing. And sometimes it's important. It's important to say it when you can.
Yeah, that's one of the things I think I really picked up from my corporate world is communication is so key. And making other people, because you kind of get lost in corporations, and recognizing people and just letting them know they're there. And, it really communicating was a huge thing. Did I always do it right? No. I made a lot of mistakes along the way, but I'm very proud of learning from those mistakes and being a much better person now.
Yeah,
and I was in the tech world, by the way.
Well,
I'm a geek.
I'm a nerd. So if that makes you feel any better,
that's a good thing. We'll get along fine.
One thing I wanted to ask you from the beginning of this, all the way up until this point, is there one more thing that you want to do?
There's a lot more things I want to do. I really don't feel like I've tapped into the community to help enough. So I do give back. I do charity fundraisers and I donate for auctions and stuff. But I still don't feel like enough people have found the special effect it has on us to be in the art studio and to be doing something and it not taking a lot of time. It doesn't take a lot of investment, and you can really feel different. And like you were saying, it's an experience, and it's an experience I wish I could share with more people.
It's a hard thing to accomplish because, a lot of the times people whether it be money or time constraints or other types of, I mean, the list just goes on. Let's be honest,
Exactly.
we as humans, we come up with a million excuses.
Oh, we're good at it.
Masters at it. Hello, it's 2023.
Yes.
Oh.
I
So,
always prided myself as being able to be a troubleshooter to a certain degree. So I keep reinventing my studio and changing the way I'm doing things so that I can try and be more available, that people can find me. I mean, during COVID, people weren't out and doing much. So they didn't know I was there. So they're starting to learn about me. And it's just like, how could you have been here all this time? And we didn't know about you. And it's like, unfortunately, COVID played a dirty trick on all of us. But you found me now, and that's what counts. It doesn't do any good to paint a picture from the past unless you're going to grow from it.
yeah, you can't use the past as an excuse for why you're not moving forward, because you're just going backwards.
And it's very easy to do that. It's procrastination is pretty phenomenal. And the fear of being wrong. I mean, I'm still very amazed in my corporate world as well as in smaller environments. Somebody goes in and uses the last of the cups in the coffee room and never tells anybody. I mean, you notice that the supply is low. Why can't you just say, hey, the supply is low? Instead, they just don't say anything, like they're going to get in trouble for using a cup. And you're like, I don't understand that. I know it's a silly side story, but it carries through so much more. Nobody ever wants to admit they made the mistake.
Right.
We're all human. We're all going to make mistakes. And the best thing to do is acknowledge it so we can fix it faster and sooner.
Right.
Because it's going to be found.
It is. It really is. We, if you don't mind, do you want to go over a little bit about, about your studio, where people can find you, stuff like that? Because I'm actually curious.
Great. So I am in Thousand Oaks area of Southern California. So we are northwest of Los Angeles. And I kind of laugh. It's the halfway point between Los Angeles and Santa Barbara.
Yeah, it is.
It's the Conejo Valley. It's an amazing community. And I have a little studio that is across from the Four Seasons Hotel, which is a landmark place.
Nice.
So I'm in an industrial little park, so it's not as easy to find me. I don't have a street sense, but people walk around and they find it. And I am very lucky. There is a dog groomer across the way from me. So I have gotten a lot of customers and interest from people there. They look in the window and see all the stuff happening, or they hear all the laughter coming out of it.
I can imagine.
But I'm on the web at Glass Arts with an S Collective. That's the name of the company. And we're on Facebook and Instagram. And we do have an online store. So we ship anywhere in the U.S. And we do commission work as well. And then, of course, I take things a little further. We not only have wine nights, but you're welcome to have beer night. Or I have two blender, which, of course, do not mean alcoholic beverages necessarily. And we do team building and parties, birthday parties, adults, kids. So there's a lot of opportunity to share.
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah. And it's an industrial park, yes, but there's a lot of beauty of bringing that into it, because it adds that sprawl of adventure, creativity, and something fun you can do on the weekend. Because, to be honest, I lived in LA. So driving down to Thousand Oaks, come on, it's a great drive. Hey, going past like Calabasas, what do you call
Calabasas?
Yeah, Calabasas, and then like I used to love going down like Topanga Canyon. Once you get past and you go through the highway, you just see these giant mountains. And it's just like desert. And you're like, whoa. And then you can go to I've been to 1,000 Oaks. Like, the community out there is really great. It's an awesome environment, and kudos to you creating something this amazing, beautiful out there.
Thanks. Yeah, it's much more fun. And I always heard people say, when you retire, do something that you really love, because you'll never feel like you ever worked a day in your life. And that is so true. And it's like, what a cliche, but it is so true. I mean, I just love going in, and I love seeing people, and I'll readjust my schedule if somebody needs to be in there. I live 3 miles away, and so I can zip over if
Nice.
somebody needs something. And I just enjoy so much.
I think that's the importance about living. It's not about settling. It's about, what do you want to do?
And being an entrepreneur was not necessarily what my thought was, because again, I was a corporate person for so long. But there's something very fun about saying, oh, you don't have a class listed on Friday and my girlfriend's coming into town. And I go, well, what time did you want to come and what class do you want? I own the calendar. I can change it. If nobody else is booked for a class at that time, we'll make it work. And they're so surprised at my flexibility.
Right.
It's like, if I can make somebody's day, that's a gift to me. It's that simple. I love that.
Special moment, for sure.
It,
Yeah. Well, I have to say thank you for coming on and sharing this amazing craft. Hopefully this can help bring some people. We do have listeners out on the West Coast. And
the country isn't that big. Okay, I get it.
yeah, well, I mean, it's just West and East. Nobody cares for them. I'm kidding. We love all of you. But if you want to check out more of the podcast, you can find us on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at Lost in the Groove Pod. So with that, we'll catch you on the next one. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Dave, for having me. I really do appreciate it.
All right, how do we stop this? Okay, I'm sorry.